Welcome into Emerald and Lilywhite. This is episode 26. We got a big one to talk about, and it feels good. The last time we met, we had lost to Ipswich, but not the case today. As always, I'm co-host Scott. You can find me at Scott G. Bird, joined by my co-host Max at Going Limbs. Max, what's up, man?
Yeah, I'm just buzzing. I mean, just absolute, what a morning. I can't believe I'm just still in disbelief at this result. I genuinely, we beat City. I'm not, super surprised about beating City 4-0 away. It's just, it's unbelievable. I can't even fathom it.
Yeah, no doubt. Completely agree. With us also after a couple weeks off is Alex Chang at Alex Chang with an X instead of an A. What's up, man?
What's up, guys? Good to be back. Celebrating a great win. Can never complain about that. So, good to be back. Good to be back.
No doubt, man. Good to have you. I'm also going to tell those viewing here on YouTube. Of course, we are the official YouTube channel of Seattle Spurs. That I am in red, and I understand that, but I don't subscribe to the Never Red. It's too important for Iowa State. But which again, if you're watching, big one for the Clones tonight. We'd appreciate any support. But we're here to talk Tottenham. As you both said, massive win today, 4-0 over Manchester City. I believe that I had called for a 4-0 loss in our last podcast, so I stand quite corrected by Tottenham. But let's jump right into it. I want to talk about the lineup first and foremost. Obviously, the interesting thing that we saw from the jump, and I would ask you guys this question, but we'll just get right to it. Again, it's Kulusevski as a right wing potentially, or what ended up being a quite fluid role, even ended up on the left sometimes. My first thought was, is this a diamond that we're going to see some sort of 4-4-2? You brought that up as well, Max, but what did you make of that lineup?
Honestly, I was pretty pleased. I was pretty pleased when I first saw it, just because I know that Kulu's had success against City on that right side in the past, and he just plays well against City in general. And to be super honest, when I was waking up this morning, I was not really looking forward to the game, not really looking forward to checking the lineup. The guy I had in mind when I was not looking forward, I was like, dude, I don't want to see, no offense, because now this is going to sound bad. It's going to kind of kill the vibes. I was like, I do not want to fucking see Brennan Johnson in the lineup right now. I'm sorry. I hate to be that guy. I need something a little bit more. I need a spark. Something that's going to make me want to stand up and get excited. And Kulu and Madison together kind of gave me that spark. I was like, oh, and just making an adjustment. This is going to be a really interesting game. We're not just trying the same old shit that didn't work the past two games. So I was quite excited. I thought it was awesome. And like you said, I thought it was going to be a diamond. I thought they would have maybe Kulu and Sar as the two corners of the diamond. I guess they're all corners because it's a diamond, but the two, the double, and then Madison above and Basuma sitting, which I think would still be a sick formation. It was a big fan of the lineup. I wanted Madison to start all season, so it was good to see him back in the starting 11.
Yeah, Chang, let's talk about Madison. And I want to get your take on the lineup too, but we'll double click on Madison. We'll turn it into a bigger conversation. Hasn't gotten many minutes or starts as of late, we could say, right? I believe 3 of the last 4 matches, he found himself as a late sub or potentially even unused in one of them. But he starts today and he bangs on. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, so the birthday boy, right? Got to start against City, cheeky brace. I think it's good to see. I mean, I feel like we've been seeing reports of Ange reportedly falling out with the locker room, and I feel that Madison has been one of the names that's been thrown around that he's fallen out with. I think it shows 2 things. I think it's good to see that Ange will take he's very opinionated. I think he's very stubborn in a way, whether that's for his benefit or that'll be his downfall. But I think it's good that to see that he adapts the lineup based on the opponent. Obviously, I think all great managers would do that. And to see we have the engine room of Sar and Basuma, which honestly I was I don't know if I was surprised to see both. I think I was surprised to see Madison. I thought Kulu has been used in more of a central role lately, so I thought he would stick there. But to see Bissouma and Sarr, I thought they were great. I thought like we completely overran their midfield. Like 34-year-old Gundogan, Bernardo
Yeah,
Silva, 30 years old. Bro, Gundogan needs to leave for different reason. But
It's
and
left
Rico
him.
Lewis, I think, dude, Rico Lewis is terrible, honestly. I don't rate it. But yeah, to see that our midfield like absolutely outworked theirs, and I think it contributed a big factor to winning in the way that we did.
yeah,
But I think to see Madison, brace, hopefully that mends a little bit of the relationship if that's like truly the case. I think, but yeah, it was good to see Madison on the score sheet. Two great finishes, by the way, and
incredible
Left-footed,
finishes.
happy
both
birthday
left-footed.
to him.
Yeah, I'm stoked for him. Let's talk about Madison and the fact that he hasn't played Max, and as Chang brought up, some discourse, whether it's just alleged or not, right? That there was some beef between him and Ange. Obviously, Madison sets up today. Do you think that's more of a show of solidarity with Ange Postecoglou, or maybe sticking it to somebody who wasn't giving you the minutes you were looking for?
I think I know Madison as like an emotional footballer. Like he's always chatting to the other team, chatting to the other team's fans, taking the piss on social media.
Yeah.
Like I know he wanted to prove people wrong today, and he showed up. And I think you could see it in his celebrations a little bit. They were a little bit more muted than usual, but it was kind of like in a way like, oh, like, yeah, I'm James Madison, like I'm showing up to City and scoring 2 goals in the first 30 minutes. And I think what I was getting at originally with like the Brennan Johnson part, when I kind of slandered him in the opening 5 minutes of the pod of our greatest win in 5 years, but I think what I was getting at is I want to see all of our best players on the field at the same time. And I think that's what this lineup achieved. And you guys can feel free to disagree with me, but I think we genuinely, besides the center backs because of injury, this is our best 11. So as a whole on the team, I think this is the strongest composition of 11 guys, and they played up to their potential today, and we absolutely fucking thrashed them. And Matters was obviously a huge part of that. And him and Kulu, whenever they play together, they continue to work well together. So if you can balance that out with a Sarr also in the mix, because we haven't seen Sarr play with those two. We've never seen a combination of those three. It's always been one or the other. So, yeah, we saw it today, and it worked like a charm.
Yeah. I love the rotation. We've talked about it on the show, but the best teams in the world, they don't have like a best 11 or a set 11. They've got 15, 16 guys who make up, various best 11s, right? And as we continue to gravitate towards being there, I don't think we're quite there yet, but as we do, guys like Johnson are not going to get starts, and guys like Madison are not going to get starts. Probably not guys like Kulusevski, because you don't take them off the field, right? But the point is clear. There's going to have to be a rotation, and I really like seeing Ange make adjustments. It's interesting because if our plan was to do any sense of sitting back, absorbing pressure, and finding space behind the lines, then you want Johnson on the field, and not that we didn't do that at times, but you can tell that we really had a game plan to play through City, and I think that's a huge part of why Kulusevski was in the position that he was in. We'll talk about, I believe, the Poro goal at this point. Chang and Kulusevski, two just absolute world-class touches to beat his man in the middle of the park. Stuff that, I mean, we've all played. You both at a higher level than me, right? But we've all played lots of soccer, and you have to just be uber confident to even remotely try that stuff that he's doing on a regular basis, right? But Kulusevski made that goal, and I think it's worth just pausing on him and talking about him for a second as well.
Yeah, so to build off of that, Kulusevski, I think his confidence is absolutely flowing right now. Obviously, very in form with the Swedish national team as well. I think 2 goals and an assist against Azerbaijan. So for this, what was it, the third goal? picks up the ball centrally, nutmegs Gundogan and like has a nice like double touch around. I think it's the Sun. Could be wrong, but I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Yep.
So then really like I think it's nice to see him pick up the ball centrally, especially like if he's a right winger. We all know like this season he's been seen more centrally. So to see that he's given that freedom to really get the ball wherever he wants. And really like he just has that he has that special ball carrying ability where he's just so technical, so strong. Like you just can't get the ball off of him. And it's good to see him like carry us out of our defensive third, like on that break, on that transition, and really catch City on the break like that.
Yeah, completely agree. He's been a revelation in the middle of the park, and today was big time evidence of that, right? But I also got to give Ange a lot of credit for, I would assume, recognizing we've got no Rodri, no KDB, maybe potentially KDB, but let's go through the middle and let's win that battle in the middle of the park, like you talked about, Max. I think if Rodri and KDB are both starting, you have to consider that a little more thoroughly, right? But I think Ange was very confident that we had the quality, especially with Kulusevski, Madison, Sarr, and Basuma both all being on the pitch. Our four midfielders, as you again talked about, Max, our four midfielders that really carry the load. The fifth being Bentancur not available, right? He found a way to get all four of them on the field, and that just tells me that he was planning on running through the midfield and controlling the game, which I think we did. City had absolutely nothing today.
But and for the third goal that you highlighted, what does putting Kulusevski on the right allow us to do? It allows Porro to overlap and get into the space that he was in to score the goal in the first place. And how good is Porro going forward? Anything that gets Porro on the flank with the ball at his feet, he can whip it in, he can bang it in like we saw. So that's obviously a super dangerous area to get him in. So honestly, I love the combo because with Kulusevski inverting and then Porro on the overlap, it's kind of like the opposite of what we normally see with Porro inverting. But dude, Porro is so good on the flanks, like especially crossing the ball, that I'm a huge fan of that. So seeing him overlap a lot was like a really nice change in tactics that I noticed.
No, it's a good shout, and I don't think it was like for like on the other side of the field with Madison and Udogie, but I also didn't see Udogie as involved as an invert in this match. Maybe I'm just not remembering correctly.
I don't think he was either. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I just didn't notice anything there, which makes me think that there's maybe something to that. But it makes me think that Ange is becoming more flexible and seeing opportunities to not be so rigid. And like you said, Chang, it could be either his greatest asset or his downfall, that stubbornness and inflexibility that we've seen at times. But we've also talked about the fact that when you're trying to play a certain way and you come in, you really got to get the team drilled up on that certain way before you start showing more flexibility, right? You always want to build the foundation so you can bounce away from it, but then always come back to that foundation. And maybe Ange is just feeling more comfortable that we're getting closer to that. But yeah, awesome performance today. Couldn't be more happy. As we say at the bottom of the screen here, no goals to report from Manchester City. It was an absolute 4-0 thumping of the champions, who are, again, they're tattered and they're limping right now, right? But yeah, wonderful performance from Spurs. I couldn't be happier at all. Let's talk ratings. I don't have ratings. I'm going to let you carry the ship or drive the ship here, Max. But we'll go through each individual player ratings, including subs, which we'll pull the lineup back up here for the viewers as we go through that.
Yeah. So just before I do ratings, one other thing is that when Madison is in the team, like you don't really see Son doing the touchline thing as much. So I think those two work really well together. Like when they're on the pitch, I think more so than Kulusevski and Son because of the right-footed, left-footed thing.
Yeah,
so Matter's way more comfortable on the left. I just can't commend Ange enough for this lineup. It just felt like the perfect synergy for this game, and he just found like the soft spot in the City team. So yeah, I'll go through the ratings and then I'll ask Chang as well. Vicario 9. He was fucking incredible this game, dude. He stopped every shot that came at him. He claimed the set pieces. It was a comprehensive clean sheet from Vicario. So I got a 9.
Yeah, I would agree. I also don't have player ratings at the moment, but like off the top of my head, like Vicario made some big saves, and I think like the Vicario dilemma is like one of the things that just hurts my brain, bro. Because like he's just a great shot stopper, but at times like he does look shaky on set pieces, obviously. But today, like great performance, multiple stops on Holland, so I'd give him a 9 as well.
Yeah, and to pause on that, like there was a lot of scrutiny over the international break, and I think Scott can speak to this, the Italian that he is, but Vicario, Italy got thumped. Vicario own goal. People were like, "What is going on?" It was 3 set pieces as well. So I don't know. It was a big performance from Vicario coming back after that.
Yeah, I will say that the own goal classification was super harsh. It was a beautiful free kick from Luca Dean that bounced off the post, and then Vicario's like ass and went in the net. But yeah, it was not a great performance from a set piece perspective at all from our keeper. Which, as you said, it's been a challenge. Chang, you mentioned that a second ago. Fortunately, I think you can teach someone set piece. Teach them set pieces and how to be more just effective there than you can teaching them how to be a shot stopper. I think that shot stopper is like more natural reflexes. So I think we've got something there, but he's got work to do. Yeah, great performance today. I'd agree with both you and give him a 9.
Yeah. Center backs, I got them both at an 8, Dragusin and Davies. Fucking Ben Davies, dude. He had Holland in his pocket the entire game. This guy is insane. Like, when has he ever put a foot wrong for us? And, dude, extend his contract, bro. I've seen enough. Like, he's actually been so good this season. And then Dragusin, again, bouncing back against City. I swear, his best 3 performances I've seen from him at Spurs have all been against City. And he played well again. He just loves playing against Holland, I guess. So, way to bounce back for him. And then just, like, big time claps for Ben Davies. Fucking incredible today. So yeah
I'd like fully agree. Ben Davies, he's one of those guys, like he stays out in like the headlines, he's just there, and he's there when you need him, and I don't think you can really complain about anything other than that. I think Dragusin, I've always said like if he played like in the 80s 90s he'd be an all-timer, because like his box defending, I think like the way he commands the box, aerial presence. He's a big body, he's not afraid to get physical. Yeah, like if he was like he's just born in the wrong generation, I think he'd be an all-timer. But
Good job.
also, like I think he's been under scrutiny for like his ball playing ability. I think it was fine today. I don't think he had any like standout moments where he was like giving the ball away clumsily or like carelessly. So I think big performance from those two, clean sheet at the Etihad with our like 3rd and 4th string center backs.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that like Radu just looks so much better when he's playing on the right. I don't feel any reason to force him at the left with especially with how Davies has played this year. Like Davies will do a job, no complaints at the left. He might not be the quickest, but he's gonna work his ass off. So I think just if Romero gets hurt, that's where you slot in Dragusin. If Van de Ven's hurt, slot in Davies. Like we got it figured out, right? And then fullbacks, I got Udogie at a 7. He was fine. Like defensively, obviously a bit shaky. He still just hasn't had like that like aura that he had last season. Like that factor when he's on the ball, he was just looking really confident. I don't know if it's the injury. I don't know if it's just how much he's played. Still played decent, but I think defensively always a little bit of a liability. And then we talked about Pora already. The tactical change for him, eight great performance for him. Obviously, defensively, a little bit shaky at times, but like going forward, he was so good and obviously a great goal.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think Udogie, definitely a quieter season, especially in comparison to last season. I think When I look back on this season, I can't really point to any performances where I'm like, yeah, this is the Adogi we saw like at the beginning of last season. I think obviously coming back from surgery, coming back from like the summer off, very little preseason. Uh, I think picked up a little bit of a knock near the end of the game. Like whether
Oh,
that's
yeah.
serious or not, we'll see. But I think to see Jed Spence start some games, I wouldn't be opposed on
Same.
the left side. So
Yeah. All right, midfield. I got both Basuma and Sarr at 8s. Thought Basuma was just so good at 6. Like he was calm on the ball today, and his defensive positioning is something that we miss. When Bentancur is playing, he fucking tends to get a little out of position and just leaves us super exposed in that area of the pitch. Against Ipswich, especially, that was evident. So just loved Basuma's ball playing, defensive ability, and positioning today. I would give him an 8, and then Sarr just ran his ass off. And I think Sarr just looks like a different player. Like he just looks technically way cleaner on the ball, and just his passes are crisper. And it's just like if he keeps playing like this, like he has a massive ceiling that he could reach, because he genuinely looks elite out there right now, especially like on both sides of the ball. So, yeah, I got 8s for both of them.
wait,
No, yeah, you agree?
I'll chip in. Bro, Basuma like getting a yellow card 10 seconds into the game. I was like, this is gonna be a long day. But obviously, like showed up, grew into the game. Him and Sar, like that physicality, that engine, of course, just completely overran their midfield. If you look at their midfield, they have no physicality. Like Rico Lewis is like what, like 5'6" or something like that. Gundogan's 34 years old. Bernardo Silva is like built like a grandpa or something. But they're just old, they're aging, no Rodri, no physicality in there. And I think Ange recognized that, and he really adapted the lineup to get some legs in there. Especially like if you look at their midfield, like no one there really wants to defend. Like Gundogan doesn't really want to put in a challenge. Neither does Bernardo Silva, of course. Rico Lewis, I just think he's terribly overrated. I don't really know what Pep sees in him. But yeah, Basuma and Sarr, like you can't complain. And I think that if Bergvall ever goes on loan, I think that this Sarr resurgence will be the main reason why. So
For sure. Yeah, and then Matters and Kulu, we can just go quickly because we already talked about them both at length. Both 9s, just class from both of them today. And then the last two, Son and Solanke, I think I have them both at 8s. They both picked up an assist. I had no one lower than a 7 in this entire ratings, because this is genuinely like maybe the best Spurs performance in a single game that I've ever seen. And I feel honestly comfortable saying that. And honestly, this might be the best performance like from a Premier League side ever in a single game. I'm not even being hyperbolic right now. Like, you rock up to the 4-time champs, the 4-time Premier League winners, back to back to back to back, and put 4 past them and don't concede. Like, when has a team ever done something like that away? Never. That's never fucking happened.
They were spinning, man. They were absolutely lost in the forest. And I know they've lost 4 matches in a row. Like, they're not in form right now.
And who started it?
Exactly. Exactly. City were lost today. I don't think what you're saying is crazy. There's going to be a lot of people who come out and say, you remember back in like 2007, blah, 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 whatever. Like today was a thumping of the greatest team the Premier League has ever seen. I don't want to hear about it.
That's the thing.
This is the greatest Premier League team that we've ever seen, and we thumped them today.
This is the greatest team, unquestionably. No one's won 4 Prems in a row. The greatest manager, arguably ever.
Yeah.
Arguably ever. Maybe him and Sir Alex. He's never lost 5 in a row in the Prem. And we just fucking killed him, dude. Like, we owned him on every single facet of the game. We absolutely dominated. So
when you look at matches like today, like it really starts to paint the picture that Ange Postecoglou could be the real deal. And
the ceiling is there. It's all about, because we like this match. Like, if you guys were to think, now we're off track, so I'm just gonna say, great link-up play. Son, Solanke, both 8s. I think their link-up play was exceptional. Back to the bigger picture conversation, which you're kind of getting into. When you guys think about Spurs matches, is this the best result since Amsterdam? Like, I feel like maybe Arsenal, the 3-0 in 2022, but since Amsterdam, this fucking result is absolutely unreal. It might be the best performance I've seen a Spurs side have ever in my experience, and might be the second best result I've ever seen from a Spurs side.
I mean, the Amsterdam win is more of like an individual performance for me than like a team performance, right? And more than just Lucas when I say that. Delhi was huge in that match too. But yeah, I mean, it's the most comprehensive win that I can remember. And there might be one out there, but that I can remember, right? And I've been a Spurs fan since 11, 12, right, in that pocket, right? So 12 years now. Yeah. I don't think it's crazy for you to say that at all. I really don't. And then we'll stick to big picture here. Like if we look at the table, Spurs are now 6-1-5. That's 1 draw and 5 losses, coupled with 6 wins. Spurs sit 6th in the table, but they're only 3 points off top 4 behind Arsenal, right? So things don't look as bad as they felt. And granted, we're getting help from the rest of the league just having an off year. It really looks like Liverpool can go and just run away with the title by January.
I hope they do, honestly.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that are just not performing up to their standards, us included. But after today, looking at the table, Chang, things don't, again, look as bad as they've tasted as of late.
Yeah, of course. It's easy to focus on like some of the more negative results we've had, like obviously Crystal Palace, Ipswich. But like this means like everything, I think, to see that there is progress and that there is like a ceiling to the project that Ange is building. And yeah, it's good like reassurance, I guess, to see that we are trending like generally in the right direction, whether it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back type of thing, with some of the more like drastic results I guess we've had. And it kind of goes to show like how reactionary our fan base really is, like calling for the sack after a loss to Ipswich just for us to go and demolish Man City. It's just, yeah, like reactionary, I think, in today's like day and age where everybody wants instant results, right? But sometimes you really just have to look at the long-term picture. And I think that the long-term picture in this case really is to stick with Ange. So
absolutely.
Yeah, really. Oh, go ahead, Max.
Yeah. And I just think like what you say about the ceiling, like the ceiling that we were shown today is the best team in the world by 4 goals. Like genuinely dismantling the best team, the best manager that we've seen in the past decade, and they weren't even close to touching us. And that's with the current squad that we have with injuries. And that's the ceiling that Ange Postecoglou can provide us. But what Scott talked about pre-show is, can he provide us with the consistency? We know what we can achieve, but do we have the consistency? Do we have the mentality of the players in our squad to do that? Because once the players realize that it's not just the big games they have to get up for. They have to get up for every single fucking game. They have to get up for Leicester on a Monday night where it's pissing rain. I know the old cliche, can you do it on a Tuesday night in Stoke? This team can't do it on a Tuesday night in Stoke, but we can do it on prime time against Manchester City. So can Ange find it within the players, and can we get some leaders like we talked about last episode, some leaders in the locker room to galvanize the boys every single game? Because once we start doing that, like, we will be unstoppable. Like, genuinely, if that ever happens, we will be world beaters. I promise you that. If we can ever get that mentality thing figured out about what games are big, what games are small. When we figure out that all games are created equal, then that's when we will start to actually dominate. And I'm gonna throw it to Scott because he's the one that highlighted this in the pre-show when talking about this game. So
yeah, I think it's all super well said. It's again those inconsistent performances. My wife and I at 3-0 probably, started having a conversation. Well, if we would have beat Brighton and if we would have beat Palace and if we would have beat Ipswich, we'd be in a title fight. That's not where we are right now as a project, right? I don't think we're ready to fight for the title. If we did, great. But I think we have to take a step back and say, sure, we've lost some shitty matches. We've also won some matches like today, and it balances out, right? But we do also have to look back and say, at some point, that excuse is no longer valid, and it can't be brought up, right? Like we have to go out and beat, like you said, who's ever is across the field from us. And I like what you said, all games are created equal, right? We're just not quite there yet. And I was with my buddy who, big Juve fan. I mean, the biggest I know. And we were watching the U.S. game on Monday night at a bar, and he said it best. He's like, dude, Spurs' problem is you guys play to your opponent. Whether you go and thump City, the best team in the world, but you play down to Ipswich, and until you guys get that figured out, it's going to be ups and downs. And I completely agree with him. It's that mentality approach that we don't quite have. I think if I had to look at consistent starters for us who are up for it every single match, no matter what, the only guys I put in that category are Kulusevski and Van de Ven. And there's
Vicario.
And thank you. And Vicario, hands down, maybe the top person on
dude, that guy is so locked in. It's actually insane.
Always, man. I mean, he's the guy that said I would literally walk to London from Empoli if I had to sign for Spurs, right? He was just, especially like when you look at his trajectory, he was kind of nothing until his time at Empoli, and then just happened to get scouted by Paratici, right, who continues to deliver for this club. And I'm not quite sure where the dude is, but he happens to be identified as somebody who would be a cheaper alternative to David Raya. So if Arsenal doesn't bid for Raya, and where was he at prior? Brentford don't dig their heels in, right? Who knows what ends up happening, but Vicario was just so grateful. But yeah, he's super locked in. And then, like I said, Van de Ven and Kulusevski are the two guys who are always up for it, and that's it. So that's got to get figured out if we want to have any shot at doing anything this season. But at the same time, like we said, we sit sixth in the table, very much in a top four fight. We're in the quarterfinals of the League Cup, and we're definitely going to get through the Europa League. I shouldn't say definitely, but it's looking pretty good that we're getting through into the knockouts of the Europa League, right? So that's a pretty damn good season, if you ask me. And again, things haven't tasted great as of late, looking back to prior to the international break. But after today, things for sure feel pretty fucking good at Spurs, and that's a wonderful thing to be able to say.
Yeah, and if you look at like teams achieving results like this, like it's just so rare. Like a result like this to me is as like important as like when you see Barca smack Madrid in the El Clasico, and you're like, this Barca team is the best team in the world. They smacked Bayern and Madrid in the same week. We did that with Villa and City like 3 weeks ago. But it's the thing that Barca gets it done week in, week out, and we haven't figured that out. And I feel like it's kind of a Spursy thing. As much as I hate to say, it's a Spursy thing to not have the mentality that we got to do this week in, week out, no matter what. But I genuinely hope that like some players and whoever it may be step up and be like, now, like, hopefully this is a turning point in the season. Like, you guys have now fully seen what we can do on the pitch against the best team in the world. And now let's do it every week, and let's smack teams every week, because we're certainly capable of doing that. And we're certainly capable of winning multiple trophies this season. I'm not saying that we're going to do that, but we definitely have the ability to. So that's just really exciting. And like I said, I think Chang, Scott, I think all of us pregame, the group chat was not feeling very excited for this game. I thought we were kind of going to roll over. The vibes were horrendous, but this has brought me all the way back in. So I'm fully ready for that Fulham 3-0 thumping next week that we take from them. Because Raul Jimenez brace, I can already see the visions right now. So, yeah.
Yeah, well said, Chang. Sorry, missed a little bit of that there. I'm watching a dog for those viewing, and the dog is being a pain in the ass. Great dog. But yeah, Chang, you know, when you look at the bigger picture, man, what are your prospects moving forward? Obviously, we got Roma coming up, which we're going to talk about here shortly. But yeah, what are your outlooks or prospects that move forward in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so I think the plan should be that we just keep fucking winning and we never stop. So Fulham next up in the Premier League, and then after that, it's Bournemouth. That should be 6 points, bro. Like, there's
sure.
absolutely no excuse. But obviously, with the up and down season that we've had, it's always hard to be optimistic as a Tottenham fan because, you know, this is the type of toxic relationship, you know. They just made a great gesture and I'm ready to get hurt again. So we'll see where we are in a few weeks. But like Max said, there's no excuse to why we shouldn't be able to win like at least a trophy. And I think that if we just keep up the top performances, which is obviously easier said than done, um, we should end up with some silverware, and I'd love to see it. You know, especially like Son. He's had some links. I think I saw like Fenerbahce or some bullshit or whatever. But to see him lift the trophy, I think would warm every single fan's heart, whether they're Tottenham supporters or not. So,
yeah, I love it, man. Especially looking at Son. There are reports out there that we will not be renewing or extending his contract, right? I think there's a clause we can trigger.
We triggered it.
We did. Okay, so that extra year. So we do know that Son will be here past this season.
At least for next season.
At least for next season. But I don't think it's out of the question to say that may be the end of his run at Spurs. Who knows, right? A lot can happen. But I completely agree. For him to lift a trophy on the way out would be a real special thing. And I also think as Spurs fans, you know, that has to be something that we do brace for, because I think we've talked about it on the show. We as Spurs fans get very attached to players, and it's hard for us to see fan favorites go, but it happens, right? Especially for teams who are looking to win everything all the time, right? I mean, shit, City just sold Julian Alvarez this summer, and maybe they're paying for it a little bit, but the point is,
he's
you know,
cooking, bro.
He is, and Holland has no competition. Which again,
I mean,
they talked about this on the post game. I mean, he just kind of had an off day. I don't think there was an issue there, but anyways, you know,
that's the Ben Davies effect.
No doubt, we're going to talk about
Ben Davies, bro.
Yeah,
dude.
Welcome to the Ben Davies chamber.
Look, the dude just puts in a 7.0 every single time he plays.
Unreal.
Never more, never less, and I'll take that guy as a center back all day, every day. Right?
Never complains.
Never, dude. He's
never
always
complains.
Always ready to
The
go.
ultimate professional, bro. Like,
absolutely. And everybody pegs him to be a coach. Like when they do these player interviews, like who on the team is going to be a manager someday, they all say Ben Davies. He reads like 5+ books a month and always posts it on the socials. The dude he soaks up knowledge and information, and that makes a good center back, in my opinion, too. Like he always knows what he's supposed to do. He studies the game. I want to talk about the center backs because I have to preface this. I'm never saying that Ben Davies should start over Mickey Van de Ven, but something about Ben Davies and Radu Dragusin has proven to be super steady and safe and calm, and we definitely don't get that from Romero. We had an interesting talk in our message chat last week, I believe, or throughout the past week, right, regarding Romero, and we can talk about that too if you guys want, but Ben Davies and Radu Dragusin, just again, and I'll come to you, Max, they look to be a very steady option at the back over and over.
Yeah, I think that's the pairing. Like all Radu's best performances have come alongside Davies or Van de Ven. I just don't think Dragusin and Romero work at all, honestly. They're both right-footed. That's the one thing. but I think they're both a little bit too rash and aggressive. And then Romero, they both have a tendency to switch off. Ben Davies, can you name one time this dude has switched off? This man is never ball watching. He just knows what to do. And I think the reason that Romero has that tendency, this applies to the fullback sometimes as well, because Davies also plays left back, is that they are so physically gifted and so good and talented at the game of football that they think that sometimes that can just, they don't have to be focused for the entire game. Davies, he doesn't have the athleticism. He doesn't have the ball playing ability. He doesn't do anything special, but the one thing that makes him a great center back, or at least a great one this season, is how intent he is and focused throughout the entire game. He knows that he can't afford to switch off. He can't afford to get caught out like Van de Ven, because if he tries to track back, he won't get back there, and that's a goal for them. So his positioning, his IQ, you can't teach that. That's what you get for playing at a high level in the Prem for 11 years. And I think it's really valuable for us right now, especially when we're trying to get back on track and we're trying to get those guys in the locker room that are like, you guys, we got to be locked in for the entire 90 minutes if we want to win.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you're saying. Chang, I'll come to you, and we talked about this again in the group chat. Romero, as Max is talking about, doesn't pair well with Dragushin. Romero does switch off. He finds himself out of position fairly often. And I think some of that is by design, right? He's the guy who can be a little bit more fluid with his positioning out of that pairing. But anyways, we've seen that things aren't perfect. And I said in the group chat, I don't think that Romero sits on this pedestal that we as Spurs fans want to put him on all the time. So I guess maybe my question is, if a good solid $75-80 million bid comes in for from Real Madrid or Barcelona, which are two places who we've seen reportedly interested in him, are you taking that?
I think we do. I think Dragushin, as Max said, I think he's a very similar profile to Romero. Maybe I think he lacks the intelligence or the game IQ that Romero has a little bit. But I do think that with the right coaching, I think we could mold him into a very similar defender. And I think that obviously we spoke about this in the group chat like a week ago, but Romero does look checked out. I think his passion just seems to be not there, not the same passion that he's had in previous seasons. And I think for my first ever podcast, I said two things. I said he's the best center back in the world, and I said that this could be his last season because if that bid comes in, he's reaching the peak of his career. I think if I were him, I'd probably look at Spurs as not really a club that he'd want to finish his career at. I think he probably rates himself too highly, World Cup winner, this and that, Copa America winner. I think he probably rates himself too highly. I think he has that ego where he wants to move on, and he has that ambition to go and do greater things at a quote unquote bigger club. And I think that if the bid does come in, where it's like 65, 70, 75 mil, I think we just take that. And I think we reinvest into the squad, maybe replace him, or whether we want to reinvest that money elsewhere and really promote Dragushin to a starter. I think that I would 100% be on board with selling him.
Yeah, and that's where I think that the lack of trophies and lack of success that we've had in recent years, despite all that Poch accomplished, is just really harmful to Tottenham, because you have players at the club right now, Romero, Porro, whoever it may be, Kulusevski, even if City or Madrid start calling, who look at a guy like Son or a guy like Ben Davies or a guy like Harry Kane, who's given decade to this club, and they have nothing to show for it, and they're like, why would I do the same? So that's why it's so important for us to start winning trophies now, so we can have these young players that are with the squad right now being like, I already won a Europa League with Tottenham. Why can't I win a Champions League with Tottenham? Mm-hmm. Because that is so important. And if we continue this pattern of not winning, that's what the players play for at the end of the day. So can you blame them for wanting to move on after you see decades of nothing? I can't personally. So that's why it's so important that we get even a Carabao Cup under our belt might galvanize Christian Romero. Like, oh, we got a Carabao Cup. We're playing in the Champions League next year. Can we make a run or something like that? So that's where it comes down to winning, and that's where the Spursy thing that's been built up over the past 15 years has been really harmful to us. And we've seen it with Kane, Modric, Bale, all of them leaving for that reason.
Yeah, well, I think so. It's like I think both of you say a lot of good things, and I like find myself in the middle of wouldn't fault Romero for leaving, wouldn't really hate to see him go either if the bid's adequate, right? So it's an interesting place to be, because you always want guys who are capable of starting for clubs like Madrid and Barcelona at your club, but it's just maybe not the best fit right now. And if there's opportunities for both him and for the club to benefit from something like that happening, then I'm perfectly fine with it. But Mickey Van de Ven is untouchable. I would be very upset if we sold him. So we're never going to have a conversation. But yeah, just wanted to chat about Romero, and I completely agree with everything you guys are saying. Let's wrap up the city talk here and move on to Loan and Academy Watch, brought to you by our wonderful friends at the Wits End in Finney Ridge and Rainier Growlers / Cascades in Puyallup. Max and Chang, what do you got for us, fellas?
This is all Chang. Chang's itching.
Oh, bro. Brian Gill, I think this means more than a trophy to me. Obviously, got the call to the Spain national team, bagged his first Spain goal in a 3-2 win. Fuck, I forget who it was again. I forget who it was against. But that doesn't matter. I don't give a fuck. It could have been fucking San Marino for all I care. Brian Gill on the score sheet, love to see it. Follows that up with a goal and 2 assists today. Mbappe, come outside. Brian Gill is here. So I think what this really means is that we're gonna get an adequate bid, likely from Girona, for Brian Gill. Hopefully recuperate that 20 mil that we spent on him. Of like, how many years ago, man? It's crazy. But I think that Brian Levy is like, fucking Daniel Levy. Absolutely itching to move him on. And to see that he's like finally becoming the player that I always knew he could, if Brian Hill has no supporters, I'm dead. So yeah, I think obviously like blossoming into a great player, whether or not he has a future at Tottenham, I really don't think so. I just fail to see how he'll ever really play in the Prem. But to see that he's doing it in the league and for the national team, most importantly, is just great to see, and it makes me so happy. Like,
yeah, I think Spanish football is his comfortability, right? And I want to say his ceiling or his level, because that that's not accurate. I almost did, but the Spanish league is fantastic, and it just seems like he's most comfortable in Spain, and I wish him all the best. I also, like you wish that we get a good solid bid for him. I'm still a little bit irritated that we were willing to move on Lamela plus like $25 million for what turned into the Brian Hill experiment at Spurs, but he's obviously a fantastic player, and it will always remain a mystery as to why it hasn't worked out for him in North London. Anybody else you guys want to talk about that we need to watch on loan?
I'm just saying, like, if he keeps this up and our winger injuries keep this up, hey, who knows? Like Jed Spence, how many of us thought Jed Spence would still be in the squad this year? None of us. And I know that we all believed, I especially had believed in Jed Spence through his entire tenure. I thought it was crazy that we had never given him a shot. And he still hasn't got like a full shot, but I think he will coming up, because he's honestly been really good for us this season. So who knows? If I really want Brian Hill back. I think he would cook. I just genuinely think he would cook. So I hope we're monitoring that, although it's very unlikely. We'll take the money that we can get for him. But yeah, for Academy, Malachi Hardy, Callum Olasise, both featured in the match day squad, which is really sick to see.
Yeah.
Olasise, captain of the England U18s right now. He's 17 years old. He's playing for the 18s for Tottenham, probably going to get promoted to the 21s. So it's really good for him to see that. Dane Scarlett grabbed another goal today. He's been in great form for Oxford United. He's kind of claimed that striker position there, which is really good to see for Dane. So his loan has improved vastly. So that's all I got for that. But I don't know. It's looking pretty bright. And paired with our conversation before is how do we keep players if we're not winning? It's the boys from the academy that have like a real emotional connection to the team. Like those are the guys, like we saw it with Kane, even like those are the guys that are going to stay through their prime and really want to win with Spurs. And then the boys from abroad will get one in every 10 that want to really like love the club. And for the last generation, it was Sonny. But I think like if we keep building up this academy, these guys are going to want to win together at Spurs because they've been here their whole life. So I think just keep the youth system flowing because it's obviously doing bits right now. So
yeah, I think it's all super well said. I first of all, I'd love to see Dane Scarlett come in and understudy Solanke at some point. I think there's some commonality there. I don't want to say like for like by any means, right? But I think Solanke would be a really good person for him to learn from, and that might pair nicely. And then I'll also say Brian Heel, obviously, it's an interesting thought. Could he end up back at the club? We're in a winger crisis for sure. So there's some thought there. That kind of leads us into the transfer talk that we want to have, because the only thing that we saw over the international break were transfer links floating around, and there was just a couple of them, right? This will certainly heat up as we approach January. It'll get too hot and to the point where it's all we see on our timelines, right? But the two interesting links that I've seen personally are Takafusa Kubo, who's at Sociedad right now, Japanese international who went through the ranks at Real Madrid to some degree. I think he was signed as a 17 or 18-year-old and spent 5 years there, all on loan, right, elsewhere in Spain. But he's banging on for
La Mathia product as well. Just to add. Sorry.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's wonderful. Yeah. So he's a strong link and really fits that winger profile that Ange Postecoglou looks for. I think he's also not only somebody who can beat his man at the end line, but can get pretty technical in an inverted sense too. So it's nice to have that flexibility there. Definitely is a one-on-one attacker, can take his man on, and that's a strong link. And then the other one is Jack Grealish, which I think is quite interesting. We talked a little bit about this before the show today, but it sounds like Grealish is on the radar of Ange Postecoglou. Whether or not City could afford to sell him in January remains to be seen. They have a lot of injuries right now as well, but he's not getting a lot of minutes. Chang, is he somebody you'd be interested in?
Yeah, I think so. Typically, like in recent history, like our transfer business has been typically like younger players that are that can like develop and get sold on for a higher price. Obviously, the Daniel Levy business model. So I think that Jack Grealish would actually be like an unorthodox signing regarding our recent business. But I think he could be a good addition. I think he's a different kind of profile to what we have. He's not really that guy that's that's a willing runner that always is looking for those through balls, kind of like a Brennan Johnson. He's kind of like he like wants the ball at feet. He wants to dribble at his defender, which I think kind of like intrudes on like the Kulusevski kind of profile where he wants to like drift inside. He wants to pick up the ball. So like I think if we did sign Grealish, I don't think we would ever see like a Madison, Grealish, and Kulu at the same time, just because their profiles are just too similar. But For like an aging like player, I think if the price is right, I think we could get him in. Maybe like English players are so expensive though.
I was gonna say like 30. Like, is that too low? Is that crazy? Like 30 to 40 mil? I feel like that's too low, but I feel like that's like what he should be worth.
I think realistically, that's how much I would pay for him, but I don't think we would get him at that price.
Let me look up transfer market. What they're because he is he's late 20s now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I guess he's like in his prime or a bit.
I think the interesting thing about Jack Grealish is that he's been someone who's been on our radar before. I think like back when he was at Villa, like we were always linked to him, but we just never coughed up the like 4 mil they wanted for him or something like that, or like something like absurdly low. But
we bid something plus Onama. It was that's like been a super long-lasting joke. Yeah.
But yeah, the transfer market has him at 55 mil. He's 29 right now.
I would never pay that. Like
no way.
It's just too much. It's too much for a guy who's going to go into his age 30 season.
Yeah.
Especially at the wing. But honestly, would love to have his profile. And then with the Kubo link, I think the big thing for me is that he's left-footed, and we need right wingers that are left-footed. I think that has been a big missing profile for us, and we saw it with Kulu today on the right. But we want a left-footed player that can take his man on, cut it, and bang it. That would be awesome. So I would be interested in Kubo. I'm just interested to see like what we go for, because I expect that will also be linked to like left back, left center back potentially. So I don't know. I'm not as tapped in. I feel like a lot of the names that we mentioned in the summer we either got or went somewhere else. So it's kind of a fresh market. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what Levy has up his sleeve, because the last 2 years it's been a Danjuma loan, which, by the way, I still think he would be pretty good for us. But, that's just my opinion. And then Werner loan, who's fucking horrible. So let's see what he does at the wing this year. It'll probably be another 6-month loan for Michi Batshuayi or something. I don't even know, but we'll see.
No, I think Kubo is my preference. If I remove the financials, and the GM of it all, if we can use an American correlation there, great profile, get him in, right? But there could be a lot more to it than that, as we've talked about, right? When you talk about that 55
Kubo's valued at 50 million.
And he's just a much younger player at 23, exactly. Yeah. So but if you look at this, I mean, Solanke is 26. So we're not only I agree 100%, Chang, that we have a very specific profile that we're after, but I also think it's very important to like bring more established pieces in to supplement that, right? If we don't want to just become a selling club, right? If we're trying to win, it's going to have to be that, coupled with guys who are ready to make an immediate impact. And Grealish would be that guy, but also 30 years old next summer. He's getting into the twilight of his career, unfortunately. So we will see. And of course, more links are going to roll out for sure as we continue to approach January. They'll get super hot, but I think it's primarily all wingers that will be linked to, at least primarily.
I would see Matoma, low key. Like,
ooh, yeah, that's a good shout.
But he's also kind of old.
27, I think.
27, yeah.
27, he's 45 according to Transfer Market, so he's cheaper than both.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'd love that profile.
Toma would be disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, we need guys who can take on their man, who can be comfortable, with balls being played to their feet, and who can find space behind the defender. I think that there are guys out there who can do all three things, right? I think sometimes as Spurs fans, especially with the winger situation, we talk so much about what does this profile do well? Well, then replace it with this profile. We need guys that can do it all, right? And I think Odebear is potentially there. We're gonna talk injuries right now, so good place to start. Odebear will be there, but he's not now. We saw last week, it comes out, actually leaked through Wilson Odebear before the club came out and let anybody know that he had what we think is probably season-ending injury. It looks like he had a hamstring repaired. Puts out pictures from his hospital bed post-surgery. Does that concern you guys?
Yes.
Yeah, easy answer to that question.
Okay, so he's had surgery. Like, somehow he had come back from the injury and then re-injured it, and now he's had surgery, and now he's going to be out like indefinitely until the spring at the very least. We might not see him again this season. How many fucking times does this happen to us, dude? Like, why do I feel like this is Ryan Sessegnon again? Like, I'm actually getting PTSD, and it's really concerning for a player that's only 19 years old to go through something like this, like for his career potentially. He's never been injured before coming to Spurs. It's just fucking ridiculous. So I hope for all the best, but this is not off to a good start when you have to throw away an entire year at a new club, and now we're pretty much back to square one. Like, if we could have given him a year at Spurs, like, he's already got a year in the Prem. Take a year in the Prem, take a year at a Big Six club. That's 2 years in the Prem, and you know the level. But now it's kind of like we're resetting next year, and who knows with the injury stuff, because that can really be harmful to someone's career.
Yeah, it's interesting with Odebear. I do think that, if I'm not mistaken, he played in the Olympics this summer and for France, and that's probably the most like taxing summer he's had as a professional footballer when it comes to the level of play right at that point. And so some of it probably goes into the fact that he didn't have much of an off season, especially when you compete for your country. But because we did overturn our physio staff over the off season, as I'm sure you guys both recall, right? It was long overdue. We had just this mysterious habit of ruining guys' careers from an injury perspective and waiting too long to make decisions. Then it looks like this happens again, the same pattern that we supposedly turned over with Wilson Odebear, right? So it's super frustrating. Obviously, we know Mickey Van de Ven and Christian Romero are both out with injuries right now. There is no Rodrigo Bentancur. That's not from an injury. We've already talked about why that is here on the show, but the injuries are certainly starting to pile up. Also, every team is faced with them right now, right? There's really not a team in the league who isn't hamstrung by injuries, but for us, we are hamstrung by those hamstrings right now, unfortunately, and it's becoming a bit of a challenge. So time will tell, but there seems to be no indication as to how long any of these players are going to be out. We really haven't heard anything right now, so we just take it a week at a time.
Yeah, and for Richarlison, like, if Saudi's coming knocking in January, like, I'm probably the biggest Richarlison fan on this podcast. I've been like a vocal supporter of him since the minute he joined, but it's ridiculous at this point. Like, I genuinely think, like, apparently when Everton was trying to stay up, Richarlison was hurt. He took injections at the end of the season and effectively kept them up by himself. I don't think he's been the same since then, like his hamstring especially. I think there might be some permanent damage from like just repeatedly just running on it and then running on an injured one at the end of his Everton career. If we can get 40, 50 mil from Saudi, that would be great. But honestly, I'd sell him for like 30 mil. Lancashire, I think he's perfectly capable of being a backup striker right now. And at the wing position, we just don't need someone like Richarlison. So unfortunately, it doesn't fit the squad. And it's honestly been a tragic career for someone that I was really, really, really excited about when he first signed. So that's my Richarlison take right now. And it just feels bad because I actually love the guy. Like, I love him as a person and as a player. He's just awesome to have in the squad usually when he's fit. So
yeah, I think my primary concern, and I want to get your take on this too, Chang, if you take a bid for Richarlison, but my primary concern would be that if it's just Solanke and Lancashire and Solanke goes down, I'm not sure Will Lancashire's ready to go each and every match quite yet.
Do you trust the Son part? Like,
that's a wonderful question, right? I think we would need more wing depth if Son's
for
need
sure.
to play the 9. So either way, we got to bring a couple guys in,
right. With the caveat that we do bring hopefully wingers in.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chang, would you be comfortable moving Richarlison on? We don't even have to talk about price, right? But would you be comfortable moving him on?
Yeah, I think 100%. Obviously, at the time, he was a statement signing. I know everybody was like, you have Kane, you have Son, and you add a 60 million Richarlison to that mix, like Spurs are cooking something. But obviously hasn't worked out. And I think, yeah, like Saudi comes knocking. If anyone comes knocking, like 20 mil, just get him out, bro. Like he has nothing to add. I think my favorite Richarlison moment was the brace versus Marseille. But
That was awesome.
That was money. That was Champions League, yeah.
Yeah. He's 27 at this point. His transfer market value is 35 million.
Just can't stay fit, like he has no use in the squad. I think even if he like were consistently healthy, I don't even know how much he'd be playing. So just move him on. I really don't care how much for.
Yeah, we genuinely don't know. He hasn't been healthy he hasn't been healthy for like a year.
I don't think he's ever been healthy like under Ange.
No.
Like, so
it was like that one run last January or
whatever. Yeah.
Like a 2 month December, January, he was fucking awesome.
9-9.
Other than that, he's just been hurt, dude. Every single month, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, streets won't forget, bro.
Yeah, that 9-9 run was sick though. So there's a player in there, but again, if he can't stay fit, I think at some point as a professional footballer, if I'm injured that much, I don't have any issue looking at myself in the mirror and saying maybe it's time to swallow your pride and go play at a lower level and just give your body a break. There's ways that you can earn and put your family in front of generational wealth, not playing in the Premier League as well, right? And at some point you have to start thinking about those things too if you're in your late 20s and you're a Richarlison. So yeah, we'll see. Before we wrap go ahead.
Sounders need a striker is all I'm saying.
Yep.
Hey.
Dude, I would be so happy. That would be fucking awesome. He would run the league too.
Dude, that'd be sick. I would love that. Even as a Houston fan, I would love seeing him in Seattle. We're gonna need a midfielder down in Houston. We did bring our striker in, but we have not re-signed Hector Herrera, which is probably the right move. So if anyone from Spurs is interested
White.
Yeah.
Welcome to Houston Dynamo.
Give me Alfie Whiteman on a loan or something like that. Geez, Alfie Divine.
Alfie Whiteman. Nah, bro, you guys need a new keeper too, bro.
Fuck, we do actually.
Whatever his name is, Steve
Turnbull. Yeah, Steve Clark had a rough one.
Fuck that guy, dude.
We got Andrew Turnbull, who's 30 and looks to be a pretty decent.
And Steve Clark's shitty ass haircut too.
The rat tail is awful, bro.
I know. Don't even get me started. But yeah, not Alfie Whiteman. I would take him, but I meant Alfie Divine. Please bring him on loan.
Alfie Whiteman is stealing it.
You can have both, bro.
That's fine. Yeah, we'll take both.
Fuck it. Take all the Alfies. Nah, but I have one last shout. Brian Mbumo from fucking Brentford.
Ooh.
He looks like he's 32. He's 25, bro. He's 25. He's left-footed right winger. He's scored 8 goals this season for Brentford. He's been consistent in the Prem now for 3 years. I'd take him in a heartbeat. Yeah. The transfer market has him at 40 mil. Bang. I'd take a Prem-proven winger who's left-footed. It's exactly what we need, and he's been sick for Brentford all these years. So dude, it's just because he's bald that people think he's like old, but he's actually not old at all.
Dude, I stand in solitude with all bald people, but no, I think it's a great shout, man. I never thought about that, but I'd probably take him over Kubo at this point.
I would too.
I think I would. Yeah, it's a really good shout. All right, before we wrap, we want to preview Roma briefly. This is an interesting one, guys. Roma are dog shit. There's no way around it. They sit 20th in the Europa League table. They sit 12th in Serie A. I'm going to pull up their record briefly here. It is 4-2-6, 4 wins, 2 draws, 6 losses on the season. They're on their third manager of the season. If you can believe it. We are.
They're Claudio Ranieri, right?
Yeah, 12 matches.
The Leicester legend.
And yes, and they're on their third manager.
I do fuck with it.
He's a good manager.
This is his second stint at the club too.
Wait, so they fired De Rossi and then hired
Ivan
an interim, or
they
hired a full-time manager, then fired him.
Yeah, Ivan Juric.
Yeah,
what are they cooking?
Just sacked him.
That's fucking
Jose ruined
insane.
them, bro.
It's like unheard of, man. 3 managers in 12 matches in Serie A.
Nuno-esque.
Yeah, but yeah, dude, they're hurting right now. So that can be a wonderful thing. That could be a not great thing. That remains to be seen, right? But it is at home. It is at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Spurs sit 8th in the table. We expect a commanding victory in this match. They're still kind of like reeling from the Jose era, right? And down in Roma, so I don't expect them to be succinct or well put together by any means. We can only expect Spurs to build off of today and go get a commanding win. But what are you looking going into this match, Max?
Yeah, I'm looking at definitely getting a win. Lineup should be interesting. I'm just gonna spitball here. I kind of don't know where we're gonna go because of all the injuries and then also the different lineup that we played today. We kind of used like our entire midfield. So I'm gonna go with I'll stick Archie Gray. Yeah, I'll stick Archie Gray at right back, and then I assume the 2 center backs should be the same just because we don't really have any other option. Left back, it's probably going to be Udogie again. We all know how many times you have to say it about Jed Spence in this competition. And then Bentancur, he has to play because he's not playing any other games besides this one. And then I think you could go Bergvall with Kulu or Madison or Sarr, but I'd pick Kulu personally. I think Bergvall and Kulu in front of Bentancur would be interesting. And then up front, I wouldn't be shocked. I think we'll see Will Lancashire. I think we'll definitely see Brennan Johnson. And then I think if Mikey Moore is healthy, potentially Mikey Moore. So,
Dude, what is going on with it?
Dude, yeah. Oh, yeah. Should we talk about that real quick?
Yeah, let's go.
So Mikey Moore has had an illness since the Galatasaray. He had an illness that missed the Galatasaray game, and in the team news yesterday is like he's still battling an illness. It's been a month since that game. So who knows what's going on? I hope it's not super serious because it's a bit concerning that he's missed a month of footy right now. So
yeah, I wasn't aware that it was an illness. I thought he just wasn't getting selected. Yeah, I mean, obviously concerning that you hear that anyone's been ill for a month, especially when it's a young academy player. We don't mean to be alarmist or anything right now on the show. Who knows what's going on? But it's troubling to see Mikey Moore not get opportunities to keep growing. Chang, have you seen anything here? Do you know much of this?
Yeah, I have no clue.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I'm sure the club wants it that way. The club definitely wants to make sure podcasters like us don't have the scoop on what's going on with a guy.
He posted on Instagram today.
So. He did. He posted congratulations to Hardy and Olasise, which was nice.
Sick. Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on it for sure. Something to pay attention to. Back to Roma. They do set up in a 3-4-2-1 most of the time, so it's interesting. Like they're going to look to play wide, but I think when the width isn't going to come from wingers, if it's going to come from wing backs, I think it's a little bit easier for us to keep that in check with the way that we play. We will have to pay attention to the way that we leave ourselves exposed out wide, but there's really nobody of note even playing for Roma these days. Gianluca Mancini. Dybala for sure. He
Our
didn't
boy.
Last match. He wasn't even on the bench. So how many times did he come to Spurs? But yeah, the Gianluca Mancini, Italian international, Evan Ndika, who I think came from.
He's bro. He had a future stars like 3 years ago. Do you remember that, Chang? That 87?
I do.
I used that.
Kone's decent.
Kone's good, yeah. I agree with that.
Oh, and Artem Dovbyk.
Is Hummels washed? Or is he still good?
He's there, but he was on the bench in their last match.
Elshar and Dybala?
Mm-hmm.
If this was FIFA.
Yeah, for sure. FIFA like 4 years ago, man. But yeah, I agree. Ndik is good. I like Kone. I don't know much about that striker. Dovbyk I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but
he was
I know
top
you mentioned
scorer in the La Liga last year, I think, or he was up there.
What?
No kidding. Interesting.
Really?
Well, we got
He
Radu.
scored 24 goals for Girona last year.
No shit. Why did he leave? For
They
Roma.
kind of sold everybody.
Interesting. Yeah.
They sold everyone to buy Dan Juma and Brian Hill.
Makes sense, man. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
and Gazaniga.
Yeah, so that 100 mil bid is gonna come in for Brian Gill, bro.
Let's go. Well, yeah. So I expect us to go out and win, like we said. I'm gonna go ahead and predict. It looks like Max is going 3-1. I'm gonna go 3. I'm gonna go 3-1 as well. I wanted to say 3, but no. My gut tells me 3-1. Chang, what do you think?
I'll go 2-0.
2-0. Spurs, I assume.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
It's a must win. It's a must win. It's actually a big game because we don't want to get too dicey with this. We want to go straight to the round of 16.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that being said, like I said earlier, Spurs sit 8th place in the 7th place in the Europa League table with 3 wins and a loss, obviously, to Galatasaray. Above them are Athletic Club Bilbao, Anderlecht, Frankfurt, Galatasaray, Ajax, and Lazio sitting top of the table. All clubs that I think we should be able to handle on our day if we come out and play like we did today. But yeah, I agree. It's a big match for us to make sure that we're not playing in this round of 32, which is just, frankly, 2 extra games and travel somewhere in Europe that we don't need during the busy fixture list. So, yeah, I think that's probably it for us here, episode 26 of Emerald and Lilywhite. We appreciate everybody who's tuned in. What a wonderful day to talk Spurs after, again, to bring it all back to why we're here. Spurs thump Manchester City 4-0 at the Etihad, take out the champs. Yeah, but for myself, for Max, for Chang, we appreciate everybody who's been here. For Seattle Spurs, most importantly, we appreciate everybody who's been here. Again, you can find me at Scott G. Bird. You can find Max at Going Limbs. You can find Chang at Alex Chang with an X instead of an A. You can follow the pod at Emerald and Lilywhite, on all socials. That's again at and Lilywhite. You can follow Seattle Spurs at Seattle Spurs. You can sign up to the Gmail list by emailing seattlespurs@gmail.com. That's going to keep you up to date with all things Seattle Spurs and, frankly, all things Tottenham that you're going to want to know, right? But, again, be sure to follow the pod. Be sure to like and subscribe. It's super helpful to us, and it's very helpful to Seattle Spurs, most importantly, as we look to grow the Tottenham brand across the great city of Seattle. And, as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.